Hey everyone, long-time lurker, first-time poster. Honestly, never thought I'd be that guy writing about my marriage blowing up on the internet. But here we are. I guess I just need some outside perspective because my head's still spinning. So, my wife Elle and I have been together for 7 years, married for 4. We've had our ups and downs like any couple, but I always thought we were solid, maybe not perfect, but stable. Or at least stable enough that I didn't expect to be typing all this out with shaking hands. About 2 months ago, I started noticing little things. Nothing dramatic at first, just tiny shifts. She'd get home later than usual, saying work was crazy or her team lead is incompetent. She'd snap over small things, like me forgetting to unload the dishwasher or asking if she wanted dinner. The tone she used sometimes sharp, dismissive, like I was an annoying coworker instead of her husband. I brushed it off at first. Everyone gets stressed, right? I figured maybe she was burned out. Maybe something was going on with her family she didn't want to talk about yet. But the more I tried to be supportive, the more distant she seemed, and the lies, small ones, started trickling in. Nothing big enough to call out directly, but enough to give me that sinking feeling in my stomach. Anyway, that's where it all started, and if I'd known then what I know now, well, I guess I wouldn't be writing this. The first real jolt hit one Thursday night. Elle was supposedly at a team bonding dinner. She normally hates those she calls her co-workers beige wallpaper people, so I already thought it was weird she suddenly loved going to these things. Anyway, around 9 p.m., I get this random text from her. Running late, don't wait up. Short, clipped, not her usual style. No emojis, no sarcastic flourish, nothing. Just cold. About an hour later, our Ring doorbell went off. Normally it's just a neighbor's cat triggering it, but when I checked the notification, the footage showed Elle getting dropped off by a car I didn't recognize. She got out fast, like she didn't want the driver to linger, and practically sprinted to the door. She didn't even look back to wave goodbye. That's not like Hirsch's always chatty, even with Uber drivers. When she came inside, she froze for a split second when she saw me still awake on the couch. Then she forced this weird smile and said, "Oh, they gave me a ride home." My coworkers are actually pretty fun when they're not being idiots. Something about the way she said it, the casual shrug, it didn't sit right. And she smelled different too. Not like her usual perfume. Something sweeter. Something unfamiliar. I didn't say anything. Just tucked it away. But that was the moment when the something's off feeling stopped being background noise and started beating like a drum in my chest. A week after the weird drop-off, things escalated fast. I was doing laundry, yes, she usually does it, but lately she'd been too busy or exhausted. Her words, and I noticed her favorite jacket still had her work badge in the pocket. When I picked it up, something slipped out and hit the floor. A receipt from a restaurant we've never been to. To entrees, to cocktails, and a dessert she hates but I love. The timestamp, same night as the team bonding dinner. My stomach just dropped. I stared at that stupid slip of paper like it was radioactive. I tried to convince myself it was innocent. Maybe she met her sister. Maybe it was a work thing, but no. I know her sister's schedule. I know her co-workers don't drink on weekdays because they're all training for some charity marathon. And the kicker? The receipt had handwriting on the back. Next time at your place. That handwriting wasn't hers. I felt this weird, buzzing numbness take over. Not anger yet, just shock. Like someone hit pause on my brain. I shoved the receipt back into the jacket and hung it exactly how I found it. Then I sat on the laundry room floor for what felt like an hour, trying to breathe normally. That was the moment I realized something big and ugly was happening, and I was already in the middle of it whether I wanted to be or not. Things went from this feels wrong to holy hell, this is real. A couple days later, Elle was in the shower, blasting music like she always does when she's getting ready for one of her late work nights. Her phone, usually glued to her hand, was plugged in on the nightstand. Face down, of course. Always face down lately. I didn't plan on snooping. I swear I didn't. But then the screen lit up with a notification and my eyes just went there. It wasn't even on purpose. It felt like being pulled by gravity. The message preview read, "You free after? Miss you already." And then a heart emoji. The contact name? Just an initial, D. My chest went hot and cold at the same time. My hands actually shook. It felt like my body was trying to react before my mind could catch up. Another message came in a few seconds later. Can't stop thinking about last time. That was it. The veil ripped open. No more excuses. No more mental gymnastics. No more maybe she's stressed. This was happening. She was cheating. Actively, deliberately, boldly cheating. For a moment, I just stood there staring at the screen like it was a cliff edge. Part of me wanted to open the phone. The other part felt like doing so would make everything explode instantly, and I wasn't ready for the blast radius. Before I could decide, the shower stopped. I panicked like a teenager caught somewhere he shouldn't be and practically dove across the room to put the phone back exactly how it was, screen down, angled slightly toward the lamp. I sat on the edge of the bed pretending to scroll my own phone, heart hammering like I'd run a marathon when she came out wrapped in a towel. She barely looked at me, just said, "Don't forget trash day tomorrow," in that annoying, condescending tone she'd adopted lately. Meanwhile, I was sitting there trying not to scream, and that's when the anger first started poking through the shock. After the phone messages, something in me shifted. I didn't confront her right away. I know a lot of people here say to gather evidence first, and honestly, that instinct kicked in hard. But more than that, I think I was still clinging to this pathetic hope that there was some explanation that didn't involve my entire marriage being a lie. Over the next few days, every tiny thing she did felt like another puzzle piece falling into place. Suddenly she was dressing nicer for work, like actually putting effort in. New top, new lipstick, hair done in a way she never bothered with around me. When I asked why she was so dressed up, she said, "My boss wants us to look more professional. You wouldn't understand." Bitchy, sharp, like my question was stupid. She also started guarding her phone like it contained nuclear codes, taking it to the bathroom, keeping it under her pillow at night. And every time it buzzed, she'd snatch it up immediately with this irritated glance at me, like I was invading her privacy just by being in the same room. The lies piled up too. I have a late meeting. We're doing inventory. My coworker had a meltdown and I had to stay. All said with this eye roll and tone that implied I was being clingy for even asking. One night, she came home smelling like that same sweet cologne from before. When I asked, she said, "Oh, we had a guy from corporate visiting. He hugs everyone. Don't be weird about it." I felt like I was losing my grip on reality. Then came the moment that pushed me to the edge. She said she wanted to go to a weekend retreat for professional development. Elle has never cared about professional development ever. And the retreat was at a hotel to towns over the same one on the receipt ID found earlier. That's when something in me snapped out of the fog. I realized I couldn't keep pretending I didn't know what I knew. I couldn't keep swallowing lies that tasted like acid. I needed the truth. I needed her to say it. And I decided that the next time something slipped, I was going to confront her. I didn't have to wait long. The confrontation didn't happen the way I imagined, calm, planned, collected. Nope. It exploded out of nowhere, like the universe got sick of watching me tiptoe around the obvious. It was a Tuesday night. She came home late again, this time wearing a different jacket than the one she left in that morning. When I asked where her usual one was, she didn't miss a beat. "Oh, I spilled coffee on it. Left it at the office to dry," said with that dismissive wave she uses when she thinks I'm being dramatic. Except here's the kicker: I'd done the laundry earlier and found that same jacket stuffed at the bottom of the hamper, still smelling faintly like that cologne. No coffee, no stain, just more lies. So when she said that, I just lost it. "Why are you lying to me, Elle?" She froze mid-step, like her brain hit a glitch. Then she snapped back with, "What the hell are you talking about? I'm not lying. You're being paranoid." That word paranoid sent my blood boiling. It's the word cheaters use when they're trying to make you feel crazy for noticing reality. I walked to the hamper, pulled the jacket out, and held it up. "This was in the laundry, not at your office. Want to try that again?" She went pale for half a second, then immediately put on this indignant, irritated expression, like I was the one who did something wrong. "Oh my God," she groaned, rolling her eyes so hard I thought they'd fall out. "You're digging through my stuff now. Seriously? You're being obsessive. I told you I spilled coffee on it." "There's no coffee on it, Elle. But there is someone else's cologne." That's when her attitude shifted. Not to guilt, not to remorse, no. She went cold. ice cold. I don't have time for your insecurity spiral tonight, she said, walking past me toward the bedroom. I'm exhausted. I'm not doing this. And that was it. That was going to be her entire attempt at ending the conversation. But I wasn't done. Not even close. Who's D? I asked. She stopped dead. Her shoulders tensed. Her hand clenched around her phone. And she turned around slowly, giving me a look like I had just ruined her week. What did you do? Not who's D? Not what are you talking about? Not why are you asking? Just immediate anger that I knew. That was the moment I knew beyond any doubt that I finally had her cornered. The second I asked who's D, it was like watching a slot machine of excuses spin behind her eyes. Her whole face changed anger, panic, annoyance. Fake confusion like she was trying on different masks to see which one might work. She crossed her arms and snapped, "Why are you going through my phone?" Except again I never said I went through her phone. I repeated calmly this time. I asked who D is. She scoffed loudly, like I'd just suggested the earth was flat. "Oh my god, it's Denise from work, my coworker. You've heard me talk about her." She's never talked about a Denise ever. I said, "Denise doesn't send heart emojis or messages about last time." Her jaw tightened so hard I could see the muscles twitch, but she kept the act going. "You're unbelievable," she said, shaking her head dramatically. "This is exactly why I don't tell you anything, you twist it. You make everything into some conspiracy to hurt your feelings. It's pathetic." YEP. There it was. The gaslighting. The flipping it back onto me. Cheater Playbook 101. I stayed quiet. I think that scared her more than anything. She started pacing, talking faster, louder, trying to outrun her own lies. "I've been stressed, okay? And you're always hovering, always questioning me. And I can't deal with this clinginess anymore. You're suffocating me." I said nothing. "So yet," she continued, getting sharper, "maybe I talk to people from work. Maybe I vent. Maybe someone actually listens instead of judging me like you do." Still quiet. And then here's where the mask slipped. She blurted out, "It's not what you think." The classic line. Finally, I asked, "Then what is it, L? If you're not cheating, explain the messages. Explain the jacket. Explain the lies." She stared at me, and for one split second, I swear I saw the truth sitting right behind her eyes. But she pushed it back down and doubled down instead. "You're insane," she hissed. "I don't need to explain myself to someone who treats me like a criminal." And I realized in that moment, she wasn't going to admit anything. Not out of guilt, not out of respect, not even out of panic. She was going to ride the lie until the wheels exploded. But I wasn't done either. The second I asked who's D, it was like watching a slot machine of excuses spin behind her eyes. Her whole face changed anger, panic, annoyance. Fake confusion like she was trying on different masks to see which one might work. She crossed her arms and snapped, "Why are you going through my phone?" Except again I never said I went through her phone. I repeated calmly this time. I asked who D is. She scoffed loudly, like I'd just suggested the earth was flat. "Oh my god, it's Denise from work, my coworker. You've heard me talk about her." She's never talked about a Denise ever. I said, "Denise doesn't send heart emojis or messages about last time." Her jaw tightened so hard I could see the muscles twitch, but she kept the act going. "You're unbelievable," she said, shaking her head dramatically. "This is exactly why I don't tell you anything, you twist it. You make everything into some conspiracy to hurt your feelings. It's pathetic." YEP. There it was. The gaslighting. The flipping it back onto me. Cheater Playbook 101. I stayed quiet. I think that scared her more than anything. She started pacing, talking faster, louder, trying to outrun her own lies. "I've been stressed, okay? And you're always hovering, always questioning me. And I can't deal with this clinginess anymore. You're suffocating me." I said nothing. "So yet," she continued, getting sharper, "maybe I talk to people from work. Maybe I vent. Maybe someone actually listens instead of judging me like you do." Still quiet. And then here's where the mask slipped. She blurted out, "It's not what you think." The classic line. Finally, I asked, "Then what is it, L? If you're not cheating, explain the messages. Explain the jacket. Explain the lies." She stared at me, and for one split second, I swear I saw the truth sitting right behind her eyes. But she pushed it back down and doubled down instead. "You're insane," she hissed. I don't need to explain myself to someone who treats me like a criminal. And I realized in that moment, she wasn't going to admit anything. Not out of guilt, not out of respect, not even out of panic. She was going to ride the lie until the wheels exploded. But I wasn't done either. After her I don't need to explain myself speech, we just stared at each other, this awful, tense silence filling the room. It felt like the air was thick enough to choke on. I finally said, I'm not stupid, and I'm not imagining things. Just tell me the truth. She looked away, not a guilty look, more like she was annoyed I was still talking. Then she did this dramatic sigh, like I was inconveniencing her. You're seriously ruining my night, she muttered. That was it. That was the moment something in me snapped. Not in an angry, screaming way, more like a cold clarity sliced through all the noise. I walked to my desk, grabbed my laptop, opened the Ring camera footage from the night she got dropped off, and turned the screen toward her. She went dead still. She tried to keep her expression neutral, but her eyes widened just a fraction. Her mask slipped for maybe half a second before she forced it back on. That's a coworker, she said weakly. Which coworker? I asked. She hesitated. A long, telling pause. Then she said a name I'd never heard in my life. I just stared. And then this is the moment I will never forget. She switched tactics again. Suddenly her voice was sharp, defensive, almost desperate. Why the hell are you spying on me? You're controlling. This is abuse. Normal husbands don't track their wives like some creep. The gaslighting went nuclear. I said, it's our doorbell camera. You walk past it every day. She opened her mouth, closed it, then tried a different angle. I only got a ride because my car was acting weird. You're making this into something it's not. Then why were you running to the door like you didn't want me to see you? She faltered. Actually faltered. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. Then she grabbed her phone and said, I'm not doing this. I'm going to my sister's. Except I knew for a fact her sister was out of town. And she knew I knew. She froze when she realized she'd messed up. Her breathing changed, like she was trying to calculate her next move. And right then her phone started buzzing in her hand. The screen lit up. D is calling. She panicked. Actually panicked this time, eyes wide, face draining of color, fingers scrambling to silence the call. That was the moment the truth finally crashed through every lie she'd tried to stack between us. I didn't have to ask any more questions. I just said quietly, we're done here. Her face twisted, anger, fear, frustration, denial, like she couldn't decide which emotion would help her regain control of the situation. But the truth was that she couldn't bury it anymore, and she knew it. After she slammed the door, the house went so quiet it felt unreal, like the whole place was holding its breath. I didn't move for a long time, just sat there on the couch, staring at nothing, replaying every moment of the past few months in my head. The anger hit first, a burning, shaking kind of anger I didn't even know I was capable of feeling. She walked out without a shred of remorse after lying, gaslighting, cheating, and then making me out to be the crazy one. The audacity of it made my hands clench into fists. Then the anger burned itself out and the sadness hit next, heavier, slower, crushing. It wasn't even about her anymore, it was about the version of her I thought I was married to. The woman I believed I was building a life with. The trust I thought we had. Realizing that version never really existed hurt worse than the cheating itself. And then the fear slipped in. What now? What's left? What if everything I thought I understood about my life was just wrong? I kept staring at the door like she might walk back through it. Not with an apology, no. I didn't expect that anymore, but with clarity, with truth, with something real. But she didn't. Instead, my phone buzzed. A voicemail notification from her. I stared at it for a long time before listening. Her message was short, clipped, dripping with attitude. Since you're so intent on blowing things out of proportion, I'll stay somewhere else tonight. Don't call me until you're ready to be reasonable. Reasonable. Because finding out your spouse is cheating apparently makes you unreasonable. Hearing her voice sent a stab of pain through me, sharp and cold. Not because I missed her, but because this was the person I had trusted with every vulnerable part of myself. I turned off my phone. I couldn't listen to anything else from her, not that night, I got up, walked to the bedroom, and saw the empty space on her side of the closet. Not even empty, hollow, like a physical reminder that the life we'd built together had just cracked wide open. I sat at the edge of the bed and finally let myself fall apart. The kind of cry you don't even recognize at first, the kind that comes from somewhere deep and raw, the kind you can't stop once it starts. And when it finally passed, I felt empty. A blank space where my marriage used to live. But underneath that emptiness, barely noticeable, was something else, something small but steady. A tiny spark of clarity. This wasn't the end of me, just the end of us. The next morning, the house felt like a mausoleum. Everything was the same: the couch cushions, the coffee mugs, the pile of laundry, but the energy was gone. Elle had taken the last shred of it with her when she walked out. I spent hours pacing, drinking coffee I didn't even taste, staring at the Ring footage over and over, replaying every subtle thing I'd ignored. I wanted to scream. I wanted to break something. I wanted her to call me and explain herself. But mostly, I just wanted to wake up from this nightmare. Eventually, I realized I had to do something. Anything. Sitting in that limbo wasn't helping me. If anything, it was slowly poisoning me. I started with small, practical steps. I changed the Wi-Fi password. I locked up important documents. I blocked her on streaming accounts she'd abused. I started going through our shared finances, separating accounts, calculating what she had access to. It felt like armor, like finally regaining some control over my life. But the emotional side, that was messier. I called my best friend, a guy I trust more than anyone, and just unloaded. Every detail, every lie, every moment I'd suppressed. I sobbed halfway through, laughed at the absurdity of it all in between, and finally felt some relief. Not closure, not yet, but relief that I wasn't carrying it alone. I also started journaling, writing everything down, naming the feelings: rage, grief, betrayal, disbelief. I needed a witness to the chaos in my mind, and apparently, the only one I could trust at that point was myself. Somewhere in the middle of that first day alone, I realized I wasn't angry at life. I was angry at her, at Elle. Not the situation, not the universe, not me, her. And that distinction mattered. Holding her accountable, even internally, was the first step toward healing. It was messy, exhausting, but it was necessary. The days that followed were like living inside a hurricane. One minute I'd feel a flicker of relief, thinking, I can do this, I can move on. The next I'd be hit with the full force of betrayal, remembering her laugh, the way she used, and then bam, seeing her texts or imagining her with him would send me plummeting back into rage and despair. Friends tried to check in, but I mostly kept to myself. Not out of pride, more like I was protecting whatever tiny shred of sanity I had left. But the quiet also gave me space to process, to dissect each interaction, each lie. Each moment shed manipulated reality to make me feel paranoid or guilty. Some nights I'd lie awake thinking about confronting her again, imagining every possible conversation, every sharp word I might throw back, every tear I wanted her to see. Other nights I'd lie awake wishing I could just rewind the last few months and erase the blind trust I'd given her. Oddly, even amid all this chaos, small victories began to appear. I slept a little better each night, my appetite returned, and I could actually laugh at dumb things again. Those moments were like tiny beams of sunlight piercing a storm cloud through. I wasn't completely broken. I also realized that the anger and sadness were separate but intertwined. Anger fueled me to protect myself and reclaim control, while sadness reminded me what I had lost and what I deserved. Learning to let both coexist without being consumed by either was exhausting but necessary. Most importantly, I started to acknowledge something I hadn't allowed myself to admit. She didn't respect me. She didn't value our marriage. And none of it was my fault. That realization, simple as it sounds, felt like lifting a ton of bricks off my chest. After a couple of weeks of chaos, replaying everything over and over, I realized I had to stop waiting for her to come around or explain herself. That ship had sailed. She wasn't going to apologize. She wasn't going to admit anything. She wasn't even going to consider fixing it. And deep down, I think I already knew that the moment she walked out. So I made a plan. Step 1. Cut ties where possible. No shared streaming accounts. No shared passwords. No easy ways for her to manipulate or gaslight me again. I even started changing my routines. No more leaving myself vulnerable. No more assuming she'd behave like the partner I thought I had. Step 2. legal and financial clarity. I reached out to a lawyer friend just for guidance and made sure I knew my options. I wanted to protect myself emotionally and practically. Not that I wanted to fight, but I refused to get blindsided by another move she might make. Step 3. Focus on myself. I started running again, even if it was just around the block. I reconnected with old friends I'd drifted from, and I made sure to eat properly instead of surviving on coffee and stress. Small steps, but each one felt like reclaiming part of my life she tried to steal. And finally, step 4. Accept the truth. Accept that our marriage wasn't salvageable, that the woman I loved wasn't who I thought she was, and that holding on to her hope was just hurting me more. That was the hardest step by far. But once I did, the anger turned into clarity, and the sadness began to soften into resolve. It wasn't quick, it wasn't painless, but it was necessary. In the weeks after the confrontation and the decisions, life felt strange. Empty in some ways, but also lighter. I wasn't walking on eggshells anymore, pretending everything was fine while a lie rotted our marriage from the inside. I could breathe. I started reflecting on everything I'd gone through, not to dwell, but to understand. I realized how much I had ignored early red flags, how I'd rationalized small lies because I wanted to believe in us. And that was okay because now I knew better. Now I could trust my instincts. I also learned about boundaries, how crucial they are, and how important it is to recognize when someone consistently violates them. Elle had crossed every line, and I'd spent months tiptoeing around her lies, hoping for some version of normal that never existed. Accepting that meant I could finally stop trying to control her actions and focus on controlling my own life. Therapy helped a lot. Talking to someone who could parse the emotional mess I was in without judgment gave me tools to rebuild. I started identifying patterns I'd never noticed before, both in the relationship and in myself. I started forgiving myself for the blind spots I had without excusing her betrayal. Huge difference. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, I felt a spark of hope, a sense that life could be full again, that trust could exist somewhere, maybe not with her, but somewhere. I realized I could survive this. More than survive. I could come out stronger. It's been a few months since Elle walked out. I'm still picking up pieces, but I'm not just surviving anymore, I'm starting to live again. The anger has faded into quiet resolve, and the sadness is less of a weight and more of a reminder of what I deserve. Honesty, respect, and someone who actually values me. Looking back, the biggest lesson is this. Trust your instincts. That nagging feeling, the some things off vibe, it's usually right. Don't let anyone gaslight you into thinking you're overreacting. I wasted months rationalizing behavior I should have confronted immediately, and that cost me precious time and energy. Another thing, betrayal isn't just about the other person's actions, it's about how you respond. I could have spiraled into despair or allowed resentment to consume me, but choosing to focus on reclaiming my life made all the difference. Protect your boundaries, prioritize your mental and emotional health, and surround yourself with people who see your worth. Finally, don't wait for an apology or admission. It may never come. Acceptance and moving forward are the real keys to healing. I still feel the sting sometimes, the small reminders, but each time it hurts less, because I've built a life that's mine again. So, for anyone out there who suspects something's wrong, trust yourself, gather your clarity, and don't settle for less than the respect and honesty you deserve. You can survive this. You can thrive after this. And you will. Thank you for listening to my story. Click the like button, subscribe to this channel, and have a good day, everyone.